so excited. It's Friday because that means Friday Coach Live. I have to tell you guys that this is becoming such a fun part of my week. I love spending my week thinking about and brainstorming information that I want to be able to pass on to you, to empower you. And I love that you guys are submitting your questions, and when issues come up for you in life, whether it be related to food and eating and weight loss or parenting or just general life. I love that you guys are considering how your issues may impact other women in this tribe, and you're willing to ask them in such a public format so that other women can learn from your experiences and we can share collectively in the wisdom that's here. So thank you. Thank you for being part of my tribe and my community. And I'm just so grateful for you guys because this is really flipping fun. And look at this. He's laughing at me. I can't handle the cuteness sometimes, I swear. Oh, I have to warn you guys. So you probably know it's Christmas break. We all have this cold crud. I actually almost canceled today because I can't hear. Like my ears are just blocked up, and my 3-year-old is sick too. So yeah, if you can't hear me or if you hear me cough or whatever, I apologize. Also forewarning that my 3-year-old is in the living room currently watching Scooby-Doo. So she may make an appearance, a live appearance into this video at some point, but that's okay because that's mom life, right? Before we dive into it, well, first of all, let me tell you that I received an amazing question from a tribe member, and she submitted it as she wants to keep her identity confidential, but I'm so glad that she submitted it because it's an issue that I guarantee you all are struggling with right now. So we're going to get to that in a second. But really quick, I have to share with you, I'm so excited. I received this in the mail yesterday, my official certification as a life coach, a life and weight loss coach from the Life School. Dun, dun, dun. This was, this certification process was 5 days of in-person training in Texas, and then 3 months of seriously intense hard work of coaching people, and many of you volunteered to be coached for free because I had to record our coaching calls and then submit them to my instructor for feedback and review, and tons of peer coaching and submitting videos, and I rushed to get it all done before he was born. So it was serious time crunch, y'all, and I got it done and I got my certification, but it doesn't end here. This program is actually a year long. So over the next year, the Life Coach School is going to walk me through a whole entrepreneurial track where I build this program for y'all, and I create and deliver the most amazing content and set it up in a system that's easy for you to consume. So just like get ready, because this is only the beginning. It's just going to be huge, and I'm so excited and so honored. If you had told me 5 years ago that I would be in this place of serving and guiding women towards their ideal body weight, shape, and size, and healing their relationship with food, and even further than that, healing their relationships in life and helping them show up as the best mama possible. If you had told me that that would be my job 5 years ago, I would have been like, shut up, no way. Because it's seriously my dream job. And thank you for being here and making it possible. Okay, I'm done gushing. I just love you guys. I'm excited. So on to the Friday Coach Live topic. And hey, Tanya. Hey, Catherine. Oh, I'm happy you ladies joined. So we do have some live viewers today. If you're watching this video live, know that you can submit a question into the comment box at any time, and I will address it. And if you're watching this video taped, or if you're watching it the replay on our Facebook Tribe page, know that if you have questions or want follow-up in a specific issue that was addressed, you can always ask it right there on the Tribe page, and I'll do my best to follow up. And Jackson agrees. So here's the question from our viewer, our tribe member. She says, Katie, I did it again. I overate this Christmas break. I didn't intend to. I'm kind of skimming through. I didn't intend to. I even told myself that I wouldn't do it, and I did it anyways. I even planned not to make cookies, but I made the cookies. I ate all the cookies. I feel like shit. Why did I do this? What do I do next? Okay. Oh, girl, I love you and I adore you for asking this question, because it's one that I know so many members of our tribe are struggling with right now. And not just the holidays, right? Overeating food, particularly highly palatable food, meaning food that's super yummy, is so easy for us to do. And many of us experience this way more than just on the holidays. So today I want to address your question in kind of a three-part basis. And I wanted to give you guys a little bit of insight into my story and how that informs the work that I do. I want to talk about why we emotionally overeat, otherwise known as binge eating. And then I want to talk about what to do when it happens. So three topic areas to cover today. So first of all, my story. So, and I'll just give you a quick truncated version, but I was always really hyper aware of the food that I was eating, mainly because of the way I was raised. I was raised in a family that was very centered on body image and what other people may or may not think of you. And so food was always an area that I could control. And then about 10 years ago, my life spiraled out of control. I got a divorce from my husband of 11 years. My parents were killed in a car accident. My sister was in the car and was in the pediatric emergency care unit for 6 weeks. And I uprooted my entire life. I moved my daughter, who was at that point 9 years old, moved her back to Alaska. It was a lot of chaos and a lot of transition and so many elements in my life that just flew out of control. The one thing I could control was food. So what I immediately did, and is actually a very common response to stress and high cortisol levels, was that I restricted food. I just essentially stopped eating and lost weight very rapidly, and noticed how socially enforced and approved the social reinforcement and approval that I got from people around me about my new body size. So of course I took that and I fed on it. Well, a year later, once the stress and the trauma and those heightened levels of cortisol in my body calmed down, my body started telling me, Katie, girl, you're hungry. So what ended up happening was something called a binge restrict cycle, where you binge, you overeat to the nth degree, and then your body compensates by eating nothing or very little or over exercising. So I entered this roller coaster of binge restrict cycle, and I sat in that for a good 5 years. And I can tell you that the longer this cycle continued, the more emotionally devastated I became. And I have this very distinct moment of heightened awareness in my mind where I was driving home one day from work, and I just had a fairly successful day at my job, but all I could think about was cookies. And frozen yogurt. That was my go-to as well. Not because of the yogurt, but because of all of the candy and junk that you could pile on top of it. Like, it was obsessive in my mind as I was driving home. And I remember thinking, am I losing my mind? What is going on? Why am I obsessing about this food in a way that I can't even seem to contain or control? So I went into the store, I got all the cookies, and I sat in the car and ate them and just cried. And it had occurred to me that that this was something that what I was doing to my body on the outside was a reflection of how I felt on the inside. So that this act of destroying my body externally was really just a reflection of how I internally felt, that my emotions and my feelings were so negative about myself. I was so hard on myself and so angry with myself and so constantly stressed out that I was manifesting that through food. And it was this immediate connection between what I'm doing on the outside is what I'm feeling on the inside. And that was the first insight for me, that what this eating was way more than just a diet, exercise, or lifestyle change. This was an emotional issue. And then the other aha moment I had was, holy hell, this is so confusing. If I can figure this out, there ain't nothing in this world I can't do. And so that was kind of my light. It was my aha moment that made me think, this is okay. I can either sit back and let this take over me, or I can figure this out. And that was the challenge that I set myself to. So I started searching. Of course, I went to the interwebs and to the Googles and started looking up resources on binge eating. Well, immediately what I found was, 5 days to stop binge eating for good. And it was count your calories, do your macros, stop eating dairy, it was all of these action type things that really only that I did. I absolutely did them. I bought the diet pills. I bought I drank more coffee and green tea and tried to curb my cravings. I started over exercising. I started doing all the things that I thought would manage my binge eating. I tried to distract myself, drink more water, etc., etc. What I did not do was sit with my uncomfortable feelings, until I discovered a woman named Brooke Castillo, who is my coach and my mentor. And she introduced to me a concept called the thought model, which is essentially a very linear form of cognitive behavioral therapy, which is what my background is in. But it's a very linear and easy way to take your thoughts and your feelings and see how they directly end in your results. And then you can back up and change your thoughts. So I realized that what I was doing by following all of these diets, all of these restrictive, count your calories, count your macros, go keto, go paleo, whatever, I was only influencing my actions, but I was never getting to that emotional place within me that I had identified a few years back in the car that day. See, it's nasty, I tell you. Thank goodness for being able to breastfeed our babies, because I know that all of my antibodies are going to him, and that he's, relatively protected from this crud. Megan says, bless you and thank you. This is ridiculous, huh? So that's just kind of a brief overview of my process, that it wasn't until I started really deciding that I was going to dig deep and get real with my feelings that the emotional eating stopped. It literally stopped. Now, it wasn't an overnight fix. It wasn't like I just woke up one day and was like, yay, I'm going to get good with feeling like shit, and I'm going to stop eating all the Oreo cookies. It wasn't that at all. There were very specific linear steps that I went through, and I'm going to share that with you. So, why we overeat. Why we emotionally overeat. I want to talk specifically about emotional overeating and binge eating. So for those of you who emotionally overeat or binge eat, I know you know what that feels like. It's a situation where you see the food and all you can think about is the food. It's as if your entire existence and being in that moment is to eat that food. Oftentimes, a lot of my clients who emotional overeat or binge eat will recount a story where they'll go into the grocery store and they're just wandering the aisles looking for that one thing that is just going to fix or do or solve, that they just need that one thing. And it's almost as if they're in a haze or a fog while they're doing it. So why we do this, I teach in my 6-week Strong Mom Fitness program something called the motivational triad. This is a very simple way to look at neurologically why our brain functions and responds to food in the way it does. And the motivational triad is a theory that was developed by 2 scientists who wrote the book. I'm looking over at my bookshelf right now. I don't remember. It's in my bookshelf somewhere. I will put the book in the notes though, because it's a really great book. So they talk, sorry. So they talk about the emotional triad. The emotional triad is that our brain has evolved to survive. Like our brain, and think about your brain as like this kind of an external thing, right? So we're just going to talk about it as if it's something that's separate from you. So your brain wants to survive. That is its primary motivation. And it does this in three ways. It seeks pleasure, it avoids pain, and it wants to be as efficient as possible. So let's look at these three aspects of motivational triad as it pertains to food. So seeking pleasure. If your brain just wants to survive and seek pleasure, our food today is completely different from how it used to be even 20 years ago, 50 years ago, say 900 to 2,000 years ago, right? And introducing the toddler. Hi, Parker. Would you like a popsicle? This is a hilarious like proof of seeking pleasure right here. So here's the toddler, very happy about the popsicle. It is an all fruit, sugar-free popsicle. There is no aspartame in it, but it's fruits, which is sweet, which will release dopamine in her brain and will give her a feeling of pleasure. She's anticipating it and smiling and is excited, as you can see. Her brain is already releasing those chemicals in anticipation of the food. Will you throw that in the trash can? Thank you. That was actually a perfect way to prove my point, as you can see. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. So that food isn't even really a hyper-engineered or processed food, but already her brain is releasing the neurochemicals that are going to increase a feeling of pleasure. Can you imagine the sugar cookies and what the sugar cookies are going to do to your brain? Now, I'm sure you all have heard that sugar impacts your brain in the same way that cocaine does. That's not a folklore, folks. That is a true story. In brain scans and imaging, there's a great book called Bright Line Eating, and it's by a neuroscientist who studies brain imaging and studies the way our brains interact with food. She covers this in detail, where those who have used cocaine and heroin, their brains light up on the substance in the exact same way our brains light up on sugar, particularly in the areas of the amygdala. And the amygdala is kind of the amygdala is the portion of your brain that tells you when to turn off or turn on emotions. So it helps regulate excitement, etc. Megan says, "Did you pay her to be your example?" I guess so. Maybe I paid her in a popsicle. But you can see that our brain is looking to seek pleasure, and our brain will find pleasure in a lot of things. It'll find pleasure in fruit. It's going to really find pleasure in sugary foods. Okay, so why we overeat, example one, our brain is seeking pleasure. We have highly palatable modified foods today that are literally interacting in our brain with our brain in a way that's increasing those feelings of dopamine. Our brain wants to avoid pain, the second element of the motivational triad. Our brain wants to avoid pain. So talk about this in the sense of depression, frustration, stress, any feeling that is emotionally exhausting will literally deplete the, I just totally lost the word. That's like postpartum mom brain right there. Will deplete the sugar, the glucose, oh my gosh, will deplete the glucose from your brain first. So if you have an emotionally tough situation, your brain is going to look for glucose located in the brain first to utilize to handle that situation. So know that in an emotionally stressful situation, neurologically, your brain is going to want to replace that glucose immediately. How is it going to replace the glucose quickly? Well, not with a steak, with a piece of bread, right? With flour, with carbohydrates, with sugar. So we can see neurologically that when if your brain is wired to seek pleasure and avoid pain, the easiest way to do that is with sugar. For us mamas, this is really what like makes the most sense to me. It takes a ton of energy to manage the emotions of other people. our toddlers, our infants, our children. I have so many clients that never experienced binge or emotional eating before until they had children. Why is that? They're sleep deprived. They have heightened levels of cortisol. They're getting sick more often. They can't go out and do the things that they used to do to take care of them, to help them manage their own emotions. And not only that, but they often have to put their emotions on hold, on the back burner, to show up for their children and their children's emotional well-being, which is all really mentally draining activities, right? That is going to deplete the glucose in your brain almost instantly. It makes total sense from a neurological perspective that you would look to refuel that source from sugar. Sugar is a quick burning fuel, much more than steak or a fat. So it's interesting to think about the motivational triad in the context of your life as a mom. The third and final part of the motivational triad is that our brain wants to be efficient. So it wants to just be quick. You know, if it's looking to survive, it wants to survive in the easiest way and utilize the least amount of energy possible. This is why I think a good way to summarize this is when you meet people who, or if you've ever been on the ketogenic diet, you get, after being on the ketogenic diet for a week, hold on, he dropped his pacifier. I'm going to disappear under the desk and get it. Hashtag real life. So the ketogenic diet, if you've ever been on it, or if you know someone who's been on it, they'll tell you that they have, after about a week of being on it, which is a restriction, a severe restriction in carbohydrates, meaning sugar, anything that is that quick acting glucose or source of energy, they feel an intense brain fog, almost like their brain is moving through quicksand after about a week of being on a low carb diet. And that's why your body can absolutely transition over to utilize other fuel sources for energy, but it's not what it wants to do. That's not the efficient way. It wants to burn the readily available glucose that it has on hand. It does not want to go into your fat stores to burn that energy for fuel. That's just not efficient. So your brain wants to be efficient. It wants to feel good quick. If you're already set up in an environment where you're high stress, where you're sleep deprived, where your hormones are a little bit wacky, and then you have, food that's been engineered to be hyper palatable and really delicious and have that quick energy, yes, it makes sense that you're going to turn to food to regulate and manage your emotions. And it's interesting because when I have these conversations with clients, they will tell me, well, yes, it works. I feel stressed out. I eat a package of gummy bears and I feel better. Or I feel stressed out and I eat the leftover macaroni and cheese and I feel better. And I guess my response to that is, first, the feel better is generally temporary, right? If you've ever been in a situation where you've eaten a cookie, you feel better, and then you think, I need another cookie. I need more and more and more. Your tolerance level will increase, just like a drug, just with, say, cigarettes, where, you had one the first time you smoked a cigarette, and that was enough nicotine to, last you the day. But then your tolerance level to nicotine, to the way your brain interacts with the drug, is going to increase. So you'll need even more of the drug to get that quick high. So that's going to happen to you. But also, just feeling that using food to brush through what's actually going on in your body is not a permanent solution, because it's always going to come back to you, right? So you eat the cookie, now you need another cookie, now you need another cookie, and then all the cookies are gone. Well, what the hell are you left with? You're still left with yourself feeling shitty, but now you're feeling shitty and bloated, and your brain is completely exhausted because it's on a sugar overload, and you can't even get up to go for a walk, or much less smile for your kiddos, right? So what then do you need? Another cookie. Do you see how it just stacks up? And it's very much creates this addictive process that we think about. The addiction we think about more readily in say drug addiction, but it plays out in a very similar style with food. So if you're emotionally overeating, if you're binge eating, number one, you're not crazy. this is not something that is bizarre or out of the norm or makes you a bad person. This is a very normal human response that has been verified in the science literature and the psychological movements that have shown that your brain is just responding to food, to the stimuli in a way that is looking to survive. And that's okay. Knowing that is so powerful, because what always happens with emotional overeating and binge eating is that we feel so much shame and blame and guilt. I remember just trying to hide the food or the remnants of the food or the evidence from my husband, because I just didn't want people to know that this is what I was doing and this is how I was treating my body. So much shame and blame. So it's so important that if you're in this process, if you're in the middle of this process, if you overate this holiday season, if you're still waking up eating the sugar cookies, if you're feeling like you're out of control, that the first step is to stop the shame game. Just stop it right here and now. Get over it. It's not something that's necessary. You overate, you're emotionally overeating or binge eating because your brain is set up and wired that way. That doesn't mean you're powerless. Knowledge is power. In the same way that you trained your brain to respond to stimuli, food, in this way, you can untrain your brain to respond in a very different way to food. And that's where this work gets so fascinating. And in fact, that's why I got so excited when I learned these skills and started applying them to myself as it pertained to emotional and binge eating, because then I realized that these skills were totally transferable to every aspect of my life. So these skills of emotional management, learning how to feel your emotions, the good feelings and the bad feelings, the whole range, the willingness to sit with it, work through it, think through it, and then ask yourself, what is the result I want in this situation, and what thought do I need to have to get that result? The willingness to do that work is something that you can apply to your relationships, to your job, to your current situation with money, to any situation that is stressing you out. Maybe it's your extended relatives or your in-laws that are staying with you over the holiday break, right? So these are skills that if you are, or even if you are not struggling with emotional eating or binge eating, you can apply to every other aspect of your life. So let's talk about, so we understand now why we overeat, right? And you know that it's not you, it's not something that's wrong with you, it's not the shame game. You got to ditch the shame game. Let's talk about how to stop the emotional overeating. And I alluded to before, when I struggled with this, I realized that it was something that I couldn't just flip a magic switch and all of a sudden I'm no longer binge eating, right? That was my frustration with seeing on Facebook all of these like 5 days to quit binge eating, and I'd pay $19.99 to get the magic solution cure to quit binge eating. And of course it didn't work, or maybe it would work for the 5 days that I was doing the challenge, but then after that I had no skills that I could continue on. Well, that's because it was only dealing with my actions. It wasn't dealing with my thoughts and feelings that were the undercurrent behind why I was eating. Okay, I need to get a drink of water before I cough again. Oh my goodness. Hey, Brittany, I see you just joined us. Woohoo! We're talking about why we emotionally overeat and how to stop. And we're addressing it because I got a confidential question from a brave mama in the Strong Mom tribe who is really struggling with this issue and had made a goal to not overeat or binge eat during the holiday season. And she found herself in the place of overeating. So we've talked about why we emotionally overeat. Now let's go to how to stop. So I have kind of a 4-part process of how to stop. And I was writing it down in my notes today and I was like, that makes an acronym. Oh, that's so exciting. So here's the acronym. You guys ready? I'm going to call it AHA. Oh, wait. AHA. Oh, my God. I'm such a cheese ball. It's the aha moment, you guys. You get it? You get it? So how to stop. the binge eating. So number one, in the aha moment, this is your awareness. So step number one, you become aware of the emotional eating while you're doing it. So hypothetical situation, it's 9 o'clock, the toddler's gone to bed, the husband is in bed, you have a whole plate of cookies on the counter left over from Christmas dinner. You really want the cookies. You're sitting there, you're watching TV, you really want the cookies. The first step is awareness. You get up, you walk over to the cookies, you're about to eat the cookies. Become aware of that. Become aware. Tune in. And you can even talk to yourself out loud, which is actually a great psychological tool to use, because talking to yourself out loud pulls in the lower brain to the upper brain and helps you regulate and manage your emotions easier. So have that moment of awareness. I like to call it your sacred moment. Your sacred moment. You're aware in the moment. Now it becomes sacred because after a few times of repeating this process, you're going to start to put the dots together and recognize that most nights at 9 p.m., when your toddler goes to bed and your husband goes to bed, you want to eat. That becomes your sacred moment. It becomes a time where you know you're going to be tempted to emotionally overeat. So here's what you do. Plan in advance. So it happened tonight. It was 9 p.m. You went to the kitchen, you opened the cupboards, you got the popcorn and the chocolate chips and the 3 glasses of milk and just went to town. Tomorrow, you will have a plan. The plan being, I know that at 9 p.m. I'm going to be triggered and I'm going to be tempted to go to the pantry and do this. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to notice it. I'm going to notice it and become aware of it. And I'm going to do so without shame. Remember, we're eliminating shame. There's no more shame game here. You're going to notice it. You're going to become aware of it. That's your sacred moment. So first step in the awareness right now, if you're watching this, is think to yourself, what is your sacred moment? What is that moment that always seems to be that time when you want to overeat? Is it when you're driving home from work? It seems as if, you've been all day making so many decisions, working your ass off, go, 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 go. And now you're in the car and you have a brief few minutes to yourself and you're just done. You just want to empty yourself out and you can't handle it anymore. And so you pull into the gas station and you get the extra large bag of M&Ms and a huge bag of potato chips. Is that your sacred moment? So what is that moment in which you seem to be primed or tempted to really want to eat? And become aware of it. And once you can do that, plan for it. And then the key is that when you're in that moment, you stay awake. So as you're walking into the gas station and as you sit down in your car to eat it, stay awake. Notice it. Notice what you're doing and do it without shame. This is going to be hard. This is going to be so hard to do it without shame, because the moment you sit down in that car and eat those M&Ms and you think to yourself, God, I'm eating M&Ms. Why am I eating M&Ms? What the hell is wrong with me? I'm eating M&Ms. You're going to start to load that shame onto it, right? So pull out of your brain and really just watch yourself. Just be the watcher and the observer. Okay, you're like a scientist at this point. You're just collecting data. So this data that you're collecting as you're sitting in your car and you're eating these M&Ms is that you're feeling a little tired, maybe a little tingly in your feet, maybe from sitting all day, kind of resenting having to go home because you know that the kids are going to be there and your husband probably did absolutely nothing to prep for work. And you're just eating the M&Ms. as you're thinking and being aware and collecting data about what is going on for you emotionally while you're eating this. Okay, so this is the first step, that you become aware, that you identify your sacred moment and you become aware, you stay awake in the eating process. You're going to stay there for a few weeks. This is going to be your step that you're living in, and you're just going to stay aware, awake, and identify that sacred moment. Now, I'm not going to tell you to stop immediately, right? Because the stopping after a while becomes a natural response to being aware. So after living in this awareness and awakeness for a while, you're going to start to think about halting. Halt. So driving home from work, you're thinking about the M&Ms. You know, a few times you've gone in and you've gotten the M&Ms and you've sat there and you've become aware and awake, and you've thought about the fact that this is your sacred moment. This is when you're stressed, and this is when you're more likely to overeat. This time, maybe I won't do it. Okay, I'm going to try that. I'm going to try this time. I'm just going to drive right by the gas station. I'm not going to go in. I'm just going to try it. Halt it and just see. Be aware. And ask yourself, why do I want to eat this? Why? Why do I want this? Now you can halt at any point in the process. You can halt before, you can halt during, or you can halt after you've eaten. And you can ask yourself, why do I want to eat this? And ask it without shame. Remember, you're a scientist. You're collecting data at this point. You're just observing and you're watching. Why do I want to eat this? So perhaps you decide as you're driving by the gas station, you're not just going to run in on autopilot. You're going to pull into the gas station. But before you go in, you're going to say, why do I want these M&Ms? And you're just going to listen to the answer. You're just going to listen to the answer and you're going to accept it. And you're going to be okay with it. And you're going to feel it. Now, that resentment is going to come up. The frustration and the anger towards your husband for not having dinner prepared is all going to come up. How pissed you are at your coworker, how exhausted and tired you are, all of that is going to come up. And you're going to want to say, oh my God, give me the M&Ms. But remember, you're aware at this point. You're awake. You understand why you're doing it. And you know that you have the choice and the power to not do it if you don't want to. If you don't want to. So the second step is to halt. Why do I want this? Also, remember, so for me, this why do I want this became really important as I was eating. Oftentimes I'd find myself in this situation, say of driving. I'd pull in, I'd go into the gas station, I would get the M&Ms, I'm sitting there eating them, I'm halfway through and I would stop and say, why do I want this? Why do I want this? And it would really bring me cognitively back into my body, help stay aware and awake during the eating process. I may or may not have put the M&Ms aside, but the answer, why do I want this, was there on my brain and helped me understand that there was an emotional feeling that was the undercurrent behind this eating, this binge eating. The third is to act. So you're going to stay in awareness in the halt for a while. Remember, this isn't an overnight fix. This isn't a magic diet pill. You guys, this is going to be uncomfortable. I'm not bullshitting you here. This is an uncomfortable process. But like I said earlier, if you can figure this out, holy hell, girl, you can figure anything out in life because this is hard and you're up for it and you can do it because the end result means that you learn to feel your feelings and you learn that the only thing in life that is ever going to hold you back is a fear of a feeling. And a feeling is never going to hurt you. It's just a feeling. So if you can deal with the discomfort here, you can take those skills and you can apply it to everywhere else in your life. It's powerful stuff. So third, after you've stayed in the awareness and the halt, you're going to act. Now the act is that you do or you don't without the shame, right? So act, maybe you do it or you don't do it. but it's without shame. Stop the shame game. So you've halted in the middle of it. You've asked yourself, why am I doing this? You either continue or you don't continue, but you do it without shame. Got it? Now, the fourth is that you, the in the AHA acronym is to assess. Right? ASSESS. Is that assess? Is there 4 S's? I don't know. So assess it. So you follow up afterwards. This is really important. This is the money spot, because the whole reason why we emotionally eat or binge eat is that we don't want to get in touch with our emotions. We're using the food to block out and create that curtain so that we don't have to deal with the yuckiness. If you stop after the event has happened and you deal with the yuckiness, you are going to gain so much insight into your personal well-being and who you are as an individual. It's going to blow your mind. And I guarantee you that you're going to find things out about you that you do not like, that is going to frustrate the hell out of you. And you have an opportunity to either accept it because you're a human being, or you can just dwell in it. Now, I encourage you to accept it. So when you are assessing the situation, this is when you sit down with a piece of paper and a pen and you just do a thought download. Okay? So it's already happened, right? You got off work, you went to the gas station, you got the M&Ms, you were aware and awake while you were eating it and recognizing that, oh, it's after work. That's my sacred moment when I really am craving junk food. Interesting. You halted for a moment and you asked yourself, why am I doing this? Why did I do this? Why do I do this? And then you acted. You either continued or you stopped, but regardless, you did it without shame. And then afterwards, say when you're home and the kids are in bed, you're going to sit down with a piece of paper and a pencil and you're going to assess the situation. You're going to take a piece of paper and you're just going to write every single thought that is in your head about that experience of overeating down onto the paper. You're going to dump it all out. You're just going to let it live there on that paper. And then you're going to look at all of those thoughts and you're going to ask yourself, are these thoughts a fact? Or are they fiction? So your thought download may look something like, I ate the M&Ms on the way home and I'm really disgusted with myself. I can't believe I did this. I had some goals to lose 10 pounds and I'm not going to lose 10 pounds. If I can't get a handle on this, how the hell am I going to get a handle on anything else, right? So say that's what your thought download looks like. And you're going to look at that and you're going to look at each sentence and you're going to ask yourself, is this a fact? That does say fact. There is a C there. C. Is this a fact? Is this sentence a fact? I can't get a handle on this. Or is this sentence fiction? Is this just a thought in my head? Because if those are just thoughts in your head, you know you can change them. And I guarantee you that anything that's negative that's coming out in that thought download is just a thought. It's not a fact about who you are or what you are destined to be. This step is so critical because we have upwards of 90,000 thoughts going through our head at any given moment of the day. I have no idea where that number came from, but it's floated around widely, so we'll just run with it. I believe it. You should, take a look inside of any of our heads. You know that we've got a lot of thoughts going on. So when we can sit down and really get our thoughts down and become aware of them and then ask ourselves, is this thought real or is this just a story I'm making up for myself? Is this fact or is this fiction? Then we can start to sift through the information that is relevant and the information that is not relevant. Now, those fictional thoughts, which may very well be all of them, are thoughts that at least we now know we have, and we can get to work changing them. So this 4-step process, the awareness, the halt, the act, the assess. This is something that you can do in the moment of overeating, before overeating, or after overeating. When you first start out, you're probably going to be doing it after you overeat. So you're probably going to already have eaten the food. And then you will have become aware. And then you will ask yourself, why did I want to do this? And then you will act without shame. And then you will assess. The second step, you'll probably do it during. So that's when you get to the point where you're driving to the gas station, and you're gonna realize as you're going in. And then the final step is the intended ideal, which I guarantee will happen. It's happened for me and all of my clients that I've worked with around binge and emotional eating, is that eventually, once you go through this process, you'll start to go through it automatically before you emotionally overeat. So you'll be driving in the car, and before you even pull into the gas station, you'll become aware, oh, this is my sacred moment. I'm feeling the need to do this. Why do I want to do this? I don't feel any shame about the fact that I'm feeling resentful for my husband. Okay, that's okay. I can move on. So then later, I'm going to talk about it or write a thought download. So this becomes a process. When I said earlier that you've trained your brain to overeat whenever emotions are uncomfortable, this is the process of training your brain to not overeat whenever emotions are uncomfortable. Notice we still have uncomfortable emotions. You always will. Life is 50% negative and 50% positive. That is the human experience. I'm sorry, folks. I wish I could tell you that I can make you feel good forever and ever, but I can't. This is just life. Shit's going to happen, and you're going to have thoughts that lead to negative feelings. What are you going to do when you have those negative feelings? Are you going to accept them? Are you going to sit with them? Are you going to just let them be? Are you going to buffer them with food or alcohol or other activities that allow you to disconnect from your head and your thoughts and your feelings? Are you going to have an aha moment and just experience it and sit with it and be there? I really encourage you to trend towards the aha moments, because those moments is what is going to put you rapidly forward in life. And then, girl, there isn't anything that you can't handle, particularly when it comes to practicing this step with food. If you can practice the aha moment with food, try practicing the aha moment with your husband the next time you guys get in a fight, or the next time you get stressed and frustrated because your child's school isn't serving your child in the way you want. Practice this aha moment in other areas of life and see how liberating it can be. Okay, so there's that. So we talked about why we emotionally overeat, which is the motivational triad, and then how to stop, which is this aha moment. And I'm going to scroll through the comments really quick to see if you guys have any questions. Oh, Rebecca, thank you. She says, use your clips on the headrest up on your lily, and he will be secure with his head. No need to hold it when you move. I forget these things are here sometimes, you know? Like, I wear it so often, and there's so many darn functions. I forget these things are here. So thank you, because I do move a lot, as you've noticed. Megan says, mine is overspending when my husband is out of town. I'm feeling isolated from adult interaction and depleted by solo's parenting. Oh my gosh, yes. So when we're talking about anything that is helping us buffer or push down our negative feelings or emotions, shopping is a big one. So the ones that I commonly see and that I work with a lot in my clients are eating, drinking, shopping, and then one that is also very common, but I don't deal with a lot of yet, is pornography or sex. Though I would love to, I just think that's very fascinating. So if that's something that you struggle with and you would like some coaching on it, please call me. I would love to work through that with you. But shopping is something that you can just take the emotional overeating in this aha moment. And when we talked about the motivational triad as well, just take the word emotional eating out of it and put shopping in it. And you've got yourself the exact reasons why we want to spend money whenever we're uncomfortable. Let's see. What does your action look like after the fact? So after the fact, so after you've already eaten the food, your action is just going to look like I'm accepting this without shame. I'm just accepting, so I've already overeaten. I become aware of the fact that I overate. I ask myself, why do I want to do this? I'm just going to be in that moment without shame. And then that's going to lead to assess. You're going to have a thought download and carry that lack of without shame into the thought download as well. Tanya says, great steps to follow. What about a replacement choice at that awareness step? Stop for a walk after work instead of gas station, etc. Yes, absolutely. So if you're, so she's saying at the awareness step, so in that awareness, when you're aware of the desire or the urge to eat, is it helpful to replace it with something? Yes, in theory. What you'll find, though, is that it's going to work for a few times, and then after a while, your brain is just going to want to go back to that immediate dopamine hit. Okay, Parker, can we get down for a minute? Yeah? Please don't do that. So if you go back to the reasons why we are emotionally overeating or binge eating is for that quick dopamine rush, and your brain is efficient. It knows that eating the sugar, eating the M&Ms, whatever, is going to give you more of a kick, the biggest bang for your buck, more so than, say, walking. So the walking may work for a little bit because it's new. But if you just do the walking at the awareness phase, so if you just do, oh, this is the point where I want to go get the M&Ms, I'm going to walk instead, and then you walk, eventually you're going to come back to the fact that you did not address, why do I want to do this? Do it without shame. Is it fact, and then do the thought download. So you haven't dealt with that underlying root cause. You've simply replaced one action for another. So if you do go for a walk, that's fantastic. Yes, absolutely. But this process still needs to be followed. You still need to halt and ask yourself, why do I want to do this? You still need to act, either do it or don't, but do it without shame. And you still need to assess by doing a thought download. So I hope that answers your question. Let's see. Tanya says, oh yes, Amazon Prime when home alone. Yes, or at midnight whenever you're nursing a baby and you're exhausted. Just a second, little one needs something. Yeah, you may have a pear. Go for it. I want a burrito. You want a burrito? I'll make you a burrito. I'm almost done. Are you done? Yes, I'm almost done. Are you done now? Okay, lovely ladies. So that is our Friday Coach Live for today, addressing why we emotionally overeat and how to stop. I hope that was helpful for you in understanding the reasons why we want to emotionally overeat. I really hope that part helped you eliminate any shame or personal blame about it, and knowing that your brain is just responding in a way that it's supposed to neurologically. And then giving you some very concrete steps, that aha moment. And if you want to write that down for yourself, and you can even just write it down and put it on your refrigerator or somewhere where you can see it to remind you over the next few weeks of the process, that would be incredibly helpful. Now know that your brain isn't going to want to do this work. This is not efficient work. It's going to create some pain, right? You're not going to be able to avoid pain when you do this work. You're pulling out the pain. And this work is not pleasurable. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This is hard work. But if you do this work, there is nothing you can't do. This is a process of retraining your brain to not look towards food as a way, or shopping, or alcohol, or sex, or even overworking can be a way that we try to avoid pain and seek pleasure. If you can do this work, there is nothing that you will not be able to do, because this work will show you that the worst thing that will ever happen to you in life is a feeling, and you can handle any feeling. So I'm going to halt there and see if anyone has any more questions. Oh, Megan says, I'd be happy to make a printable template of this and post it on the tribe webpage. Hells yes, that would be awesome, Megan. Oh, you rock my socks, girl. Thank you. So Megan says she'll make a printable template of this and post it on our tribe webpage so that you guys can print it off and put it on your refrigerator, or just keep it in your purse or your pocket to know that these are the steps. When that craving or that urge or desire to emotionally overeat or binge eat hits you, these are the steps you can go through. All right, I'm gonna go feed my toddler. Hope you guys have a wonderful Christmas. Oh my God, and a wonderful New Year, because that's coming up as well. The next thing that we'll talk about, I'm thinking maybe later this week, is setting goals, big, wild, magnificent goals, because I've got some powerful ones that are going to benefit you ladies, and I really want you to be a part of it and help you guys set some amazing, powerful goals for yourself in 2019. So, woo, high five. Love you ladies, and have a wonderful day.